The universe had taught me to trust very little. Out here, on the fringes of human-colonized space, survival was a currency more valuable than credits. I had learned that lesson on countless mining outposts, abandoned colonies, and cargo haulers where a misstep meant death. Yet nothing, not the void of space, not the predatory wildlife of uncharted worlds, had prepared me for the night she appeared. It began with a storm, a violent plasma tempest sweeping across the planet Zephyria 7. I had taken refuge in a half-ruined outpost, scavenging for parts to repair my ship. The winds tore at the metal walls, shrieking like a chorus of vengeful spirits. Amid the howling, I caught sight of her, a figure, small and fragile against the storm, stumbling toward me. Her skin glimmered faintly, as if dusted with starlight, and her eyes reflected fear and exhaustion. She moved with a kind of alien grace, limbs slender but deadly in their potential. She collapsed at the threshold. I hesitated. In my experience, unknown beings were rarely harmless. But there was something about her, helpless, shivering, and clearly on the brink of death, that made hesitation impossible. I pulled her inside, ignoring the way the storm threatened to rip the outpost apart. Can you help me?" Her voice was melodic, with a cadence that hummed in my ears, almost vibrating with unspoken power. I can," I replied cautiously. I had no medical training, only a first aid kit scavenged from a derelict station, but I wrapped her in blankets and administered what care I could. Her breathing steadied, though her eyes never left me, studying me as though weighing some invisible scale. "I'm Lyra," she whispered after a time, her voice so soft I had to strain to hear over the storm. "Human," I said. "Not much of a name, but it would do for now. You're safe here, at least until the storm passes." She gave a faint nod. Then silence settled between us, punctuated only by the groaning of the metal walls. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving the landscape of Zephyria 7 eerily quiet, a barren expanse of jagged rock and frozen soil. Lyra stirred, finally sitting up. Her limbs were thin, almost fragile, but there was a coiled strength beneath the surface. She examined the room with keen awareness, touching every corner, scanning the environment. "Why are you here?" I asked. She hesitated. Then, in a voice tinged with both warning and vulnerability, she said, "I ran from them." "Who?" She didn't answer. Her gaze darkened. I knew then that whatever threat pursued her was not of my universe, nor of human concerns. I only understood one thing. She was being hunted, and if I wanted to help her, I would be risking everything. I made a decision that would change my life forever. "You can stay here," I said. "No one will find you while you're with me." Her eyes widened slightly. Perhaps she expected rejection. Perhaps she had only ever known fear. Days passed. Lyra and I communicated with difficulty. Her language was alien, a mixture of tones, clicks, and subtle vibrations, but we found ways to bridge the gap. I taught her the basics of survival on Zephyria 7, and she, in turn, taught me about her species, the Arisathi, a matriarchal race scattered across the galaxies, renowned for their intelligence, beauty, and ruthlessness in protecting their own. I learned quickly that the Arisathi did not forgive betrayal. Those who were cast out or those who ran were rarely given another chance. Lyra had defied her own kind, and I realized that harboring her would inevitably bring their attention to me. That evening, as I tinkered with my ship, I sensed movement outside. Shadows against the jagged rocks. Lyra froze. Her eyes darted to the horizon, alert, feral. Then, without warning, 7 figures emerged from the mist. They were tall, over 2 meters each, with sleek, shimmering armor and weapons that looked capable of vaporizing a human in seconds. But even from a distance, I could feel their awareness, the way their eyes studied me as if I were a puzzle to be solved. Lyra stood, placing herself slightly between me and the intruders. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the barely restrained power I could sense radiating off her. "Stay back," she hissed in her language. I had begun to understand some of it. It was a warning, and yet there was something else in her tone. Something protective. The tallest of the Arisathi stepped forward. His gaze was sharp, and though I could not understand his words, his intent was clear. They had come for her. I stepped forward, putting my own hands up in a gesture I hoped they would understand. I helped her," I said simply. "She's hurt. She needs time." They paused. I could feel the tension, like a pressure building in the atmosphere. Then Lyra spoke, words I did not know, but which carried weight. The Arisathi paused, and one by one, their posture softened. Then, astonishingly, the tallest nodded. And they left. I turned to Lyra, incredulous. They didn't kill me?" She smiled faintly. "You have proven yourself differently." Over the next weeks, Lyra and I formed an uneasy partnership. I helped her recover, repaired her ship, and learned her language more fluently. In return, she shared knowledge of her culture, her people, and the galaxy far beyond human reach. And slowly, trust built, an unspoken bond that grew deeper than either of us anticipated. Then one morning it happened. A fleet appeared in the sky, silent, powerful. Massive Arisathi ships, each gleaming with technological prowess far beyond humanity. I froze. This was no longer a shadow in the mist. They had come for her, and now, perhaps for me. Lyra turned to me, her expression calm but resolute. "They have come to claim you," she said. "What?" I demanded. "I'm human. They do not care," she replied. "You helped me. You protected me when no one else would. You have honor. And in our culture, that is recognized." I blinked. Recognition? Honor? The words meant nothing to me. Humans rarely had power over Arisathi judgment. Within hours, representatives landed, walking toward us with a grace that made humans look clumsy in comparison. Their leader, the same tallest Arisathi I had met before, approached. I braced myself for judgment, or worse. Instead, he bowed. "Human," he said in careful, broken galactic common. "You have proven worthy. You are now one of ours." I couldn't believe it. Wait, what? Lyra's smile was quiet, triumphant. "You will be protected, respected, and accepted. You saved me, and in doing so, you became part of my family." That was the moment everything changed. I realized then that humanity's reach did not need to be physical. It could be moral, ethical, brave. I had acted out of instinct, out of decency, without thinking of reward. And the Arisathi, in all their vast culture, had recognized that act as the ultimate proof of worth. Over the following months, I was integrated into Lyra's clan. The Arisathi had customs, rituals, and traditions that made me feel alien at first. But they accepted me anyway, teaching me their ways, their history, their strategies. I learned how to read subtle vibrations in their speech, how to anticipate movements in zero-gravity combat, and how to navigate a society where honor was currency. Lyra's family, initially wary, began to treat me not as a human outsider, but as a protector, a companion, and eventually a friend. I could see it in the way her younger siblings, cousins, and apprentices sought my guidance in matters both practical and personal. I was still human, yes, but no longer alone. And then one evening Lyra took my hand. Her eyes glimmered with that strange starlight shimmer I had first noticed in the storm. "You are part of us now," she said softly. "But you must choose. Do you wish to remain human or join fully?" I hesitated. To fully join meant a bond beyond biology. It meant becoming a citizen of her people, of her world, of her family. But looking around at the clan, at their confidence, their trust, and at Lyra, I knew the answer. "I choose to stay," I said. "With you. With them. With all of you." The clan erupted in a ritual I barely understood. Chants, lights, and dances that filled the outpost with an energy I had never felt. They welcomed me as one of their own. And I realized something vital. Family is not always chosen by blood. Sometimes it is chosen by courage, loyalty, and love. Years passed. I learned the intricacies of Arisathi diplomacy, combat, and culture. I became an advisor to the clan, a trusted human among a proud and powerful alien people. Lyra thrived, and our bond deepened, moving from friendship to something more profound. And I never forgot the storm that had brought her to me, the fear in her eyes, or the moment her family had declared me one of theirs. Humanity had given me little in the way of power, prestige, or protection, but in helping another, I discovered something far greater. The Arisathi had no concept of human history, yet they recognized what mattered most: loyalty, courage, and a heart willing to act when others stood frozen. And in return, they gave me a family. I looked out over the cliffs of Zephyria, 7, the twin suns setting over a horizon that stretched farther than any human imagination could reach. Lyra stood beside me, smiling. "We're home," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "And this is just the beginning." For the first time in my life, I was no longer a lone human drifting through the void. I was part of something bigger, something eternal, something worth defending. The universe had taught me that survival was currency, but I had learned something greater. Family, chosen by courage and kindness, could make a human immortal in ways no technology ever could.